Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
Hello, good evening. It's the beginning of another week. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Aniyusabata, Desawe Kanda. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, we have obtained some details of the Justice Puaman Committee report, based on whose recommendations the President has removed the Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Tokono, from office. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. We've got some exclusive detail for you on this matter. It's been developing swiftly over the last at least 7 to 8 hours. Also, residents of Akwatia head to the polls tomorrow in a by-election to elect a replacement for the late Member of Parliament, NSE Alkumi. Our election command center is live on the ground, assessing the preparedness of all key stakeholders. There's been a lot that's been happening today. Eric Mauna Gbeta, Yvonne Nikwe, and the rest of the team on the ground. Stay with us. We're connecting with them live tonight here on your election command center. Also, the death toll has risen to 31 following the violent clashes in Benue in the Sola Tuna Kalba district of the Savannah region. Unfortunately, we are live in the area bringing you updates on this tragic development as always, and you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Connect with us. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Breeze.
President John Dramani Mahama has removed suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono with immediate effect. The president's actions are in line with Article 1469 of the 1992 Constitution after the receipt of the recommendations of the Justice Puaman chaired committee. Minister in charge of Government Communications and MP for Ibra Asebu Kwaman Kese, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, stated the reasons behind the decision by the president.
The Constitution requires confidentiality on the part of all parties. It is a reason why the presidency, on behalf of His Excellency the President, has refrained from commentary on the matter. Once Ghanaian law dictates that certain processes be undertaken in respect of some alleged misconduct, the rules must come to play.
President John Mahama has charged newly appointed ambassadors and high commissioners to focus on 8 key priority areas to market Ghana in their respective host countries. Launching key performance indicators for the envoys, the president noted that envoys should put Ghana first as they adjust to the uncertain times in global geopolitics.
These KPIs will track 8 areas, and the first is economic diplomacy, the second is consular services, the third is diaspora engagements, the fourth is financial management, the fifth is security and ethical compliance. These will ensure that every mission aligns with national priorities and delivers measurable results. And so this marks a new era, a foreign service that is transparent, accountable, and judged by outcomes.
The National Democratic Congress parliamentary candidate Bernard Baidu has expressed confidence in winning the upcoming by-election. The election follows the passing of Ernest Kumi, the former Member of Parliament for Akwatia. Scheduled for September 2, 2025, The by-election would determine who represents the constituency in the parliament for the next 4 years. This is what the NDC candidate Bernard Baidu had to say.
You would hear varied opinions in terms of what should be done for Akwatia. What the issue really is not about the problems, it's about the solution. How do we get them solved? You've seen our infrastructure, we've seen young men who are roaming to resolve it. I have given them hope. What also inspires me is the fact that I am the leader of a political party in this election. Which political party has power currently? Which political party is John Dramani Mahama's political party? At the end of the day, there is a certain manifesto that is being run. You understand? The vision of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama should be consistent with whoever has that vision of also leading the constituency.
The Accra Circuit Court has ordered prosecutors to file disclosures and witness statements which will be relied on in the case against Wontumi FM presenter Emmanuel Akwatia. The Kumasi-based journalist has been charged with offensive conduct and has pleaded not guilty to the charge of publication of false news with intent to cause fear and panic. Lead counsel for the accused, Andy Apia-Kubi, spoke after the hearing.
I think the charge of causing fear and panic is what I know has been leveled against our clients. And we will prepare with the same as with the processes. Our duty is to defend the charges. So ours as lawyers will be for us to also provide or challenge the positions they take in the documentation and evidence and ensure that they cannot also bring out evidence beyond reasonable doubt.
The Ghana Private Road Transport Union says, considering cost of other inputs before a possible increase in transport fares. The move comes on the back of the recent depreciation of the city and hikes in fuel prices. Industrial Relations Officer of the GPRTU, Abasi Moro, says the union is currently weighing the cost of determined factors before any adjustment in transport fares is made.
If we have to come up with any changes in lorry fares, we are going to look at the spare parts, which hasn't experienced any reduction. We consider all these things before coming up with the 15% reduction. And here they haven't moved. So you can imagine it that we will just take little from some of these components and bring them together so that we can come up with a smiling upward adjustment in lorry fares.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3 FM 92.7. Also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. And as always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasun Sister Spray and Qualcomm Tum Tum Precom. This is a matter that's been developing swiftly over the last 8 hours. The breaking news that we brought you earlier, and that is a development we're getting right now here on Ghana Tonight, some exclusive detail of this committee's report, but that's coming up next. We have obtained details of the Justice Poorman Committee report based on whose recommendations the President has removed the Chief Justice, her Leadership Justice, Gertrude Isaba Araba Tukono, from office. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. And this is one that we've been looking into quite closely. And Dennis Baberi Wadam Esquire is joining me in the studio, and as we're getting to the matters right now, because there's some exclusive detail that we've seen. And just to refresh for those of you who are just joining us, the uninitiated, here's what we do know. Earlier in the day, there was a statement from the presidency signed by Felix Kwatiofosu, the minister in charge of government communications, Deborah Sebu Komankasi, member of parliament, who did indicate that the President John Dramani Mahama has, in accordance with Article 1469 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, removed the Chief Justice. Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Iraba Saba Tukono from office, and this was primarily upon the findings of the committee. The report of the committee, which was received, constituted under Article 146, Clause 6, to inquire into a petition submitted by a Ghanaian citizen, one Daniel Ofori. After consideration, the petition and the evidence at play, the committee found that the grounds of stated misbehavior under Article 146(1) had been established and recommended the Chief Justice's removal. So this is what led to the President taking this decision under Article 146, Clause 9. The President is required to act in accordance with the committee's recommendations, and this is what has led to the Chief Justice, well, we can safely say that the former Chief Justice, we're all getting into this new development now because it took immediate effect. That was the details of the statement earlier, that decision to remove her from office took immediate effect. So as of about 2 p.m. where we got this statement, she was no more the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Dennis Pabewadam Esquire is with me. Dennis, now we're getting some new developments into this.
Precisely so.
Right.
And you were right at that when you mentioned that it's now safe to say that she is the former Chief Justice because the authority that will indicate the end of her tenure or the termination of her tenure in this particular instance is the warrant of removal. And that you see on the screen is the warrant of her removal, signed by John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana. And what you see there, now therefore, know ye all men that I, John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, in pursuance of the said Article 1469, do hereby remove the said Chief Justice, Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tukono, from the office of Chief Justice and Justice of the Supreme Court with immediate effect from the date hereof, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the presidential seal to be affixed at Accra this 1st of September 2025. So this is the warrant of removal, which is ordinarily supposed to be served on the affected officer, in this case, the former Chief Justice. And before we came on air, we got indication from her lawyers that yes, this has been served on them.
This has been served on them.
So if that is done, it means that the warrant has been effectively executed, for which reason it's now safe to say she is the former Chief Justice.
And this seals it. It seals the cycle of her removal.
Yes.
This warrant.
And this didn't go alone. It also went with some other documents that were sent together with this to indicate the basis for which the committee has reached the conclusion that she be removed from office. And I'll show you some portions of that particular statement, just so we understand what the reasoning of the committee is and how or what findings they made, for which reason they made the recommendations that they made, for which the President, based on same, removed the Chief Justice from office. So these are just portions of the statement that you see on the screen now.
So this is the statement of portions of the statement,
which was sent from the presidency to the Chief Justice, now former Chief Justice, notifying her about the proceedings of the committee, the findings of the committee, and the recommendations that they had made for her to be removed, and adding the warrants of her removal to it.
I see. So this touches on portions of the report of the committee.
Exactly. Not the report of the committee. So the presidency received the copy of the report itself, which contained the recommendations. Now, the presidency writes to the affected officer, in this case, the Chief Justice, notifying her that after the committee's work, these are the findings of the committee, based on which they made recommendations that we should remove you.
Perfect.
And in removing you, we attach a warrant of removal so that it will take effect immediately.
Obviously.
So what you see here, these are just excerpts, because the fuller document would have the introduction of who the petitioner is, the grounds on which he was seeking the removal of the Chief Justice, the composition of the committee, and what they looked at. But what is important is that this is the part where it talks about the findings, some of the findings. for which reason they made those particular recommendations. Now, when you see here, it says, in the opinion of the committee, the travel expenses which the Chief Justice heaped on the judicial service when she traveled on holidays in September 2023, first to Tanzania with her husband, and the second to the United States of America with her daughter, together with the payment of per diem to the spouse and daughter of the Chief Justice, constitutes unlawful expenditure of public funds. It cannot be justified in law or policy. Those acts constitute avoidable and reckless dissipation of public funds, and in the view of the committee, to have been occasioned by the overall head of the judiciary and the judicial service, whose duty is to safeguard public resources allocated by the government, is caught within the spectrum of stated misbehavior.
I see. Now, you hear her lead counsel, the former Attorney General Niaiko, to make the point that, I mean, she was not in charge of giving per diems to herself, and that it was a public officer in that office who was charged with the responsibility of doing this. So she cannot carry the ultimate blame or burden of this particular development. And why should she be blamed for that?
But Alfred, this is not the first time we are hearing such an argument. I mean, this argument is one that has actually been put out there a number of times from persons who are on the former Chief Justice's side, or making an argument to the effect that because she is not the spending officer, she ought not to have been caught under this. Alfred, it's to think that this is coming from the lead counsel of the Chief Justice, or the former Chief Justice now. It's reasonable to infer that some of these arguments were canvassed before the committee, or some of these were put before the committee. But on the totality of it, as we have it now, the committee came to the conclusion that, in their view, this is what it ought to be, and that they do not think that that expenditure that was, the per diem that was paid to a spouse and daughter constitute a lawful expenditure. So yes, they are entitled to make that argument, and of course, that phase of making an argument has actually elapsed. I say so because now we are dealing with a committee that has put out a report for which we are now dealing with. I see.
A bit more detail in there?
Yes. The committee continues to say that the committee states without fear or favor that the Chief Justice unjustifiably breached the provisions in Articles 296A and B of the 1992 Constitution in the way and manner that she transferred Mr. Baden. Her conduct amounted to misbehavior. Mind you, some of the allegations bordered on what the petitioner had alleged were arbitrary transfer of some judicial officers.
Absolutely.
So the committee on this particular one came to the conclusion that the transfer of one Mr. Baden, the manner in which it was done, it amounted to misbehavior. It does not end there. There's still more. Now, for this particular one, it had to do with an allegation about the Chief Justice then making recommendations to the President for some persons to be appointed to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
The allegation of the petitioner then was that the procedure adopted for her to have personally recommended persons on a letterhead of the Chief Justice to the President for consideration was not in accordance with law. The committee in addressing that matter says the Chief Justice, qua Chief Justice, simply means the Chief Justice being a Chief Justice.
Right.
Cannot lay claim to ignorance of the nomination process and procedure, notwithstanding the fact that the process and the procedure are not spelled out in the Constitution, but are clear. The appointment of the Chief Justice herself as a Justice of the Supreme Court went through the very process and procedure set out in the Ghana Bar Association. Therefore, to seek willfully to avoid or twist the known process and procedure for appointing Supreme Court justices amounts to misbehavior in the eyes of the committee, and the committee finds it as such. So in essence, the committee makes the point that, yes, the process for appointment of Superior Court judges or justices, including the Chief Justice herself, may not necessarily be spelled out in law.
In black and white,
yes,
as you have it.
But that case law has given the procedure for same to be done.
But
and when you look at the way they couch it, it does appear that as part of the processes, it came out that the Chief Justice probably said something along the lines of not knowing the process for nomination. Because when you look at it, that cannot lay claim to ignorance of the nomination process. This is from the committee. That's what they are saying. Now they proceed to say that she herself has gone through that process, the nomination process, so she cannot lay claims on ignorance of the procedure, but that it is clearly spelled out in case law.
But you recall that this particular issue of the nomination of some persons to the then president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to then be appointed as Supreme Court Justice, was one of the basis for the petition by Professor Stephen Kwaku that was thrown out.
Yes.
By the former president.
Precisely so.
Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. But this same grounds finds favor in the eyes of this committee.
Different people looking at the same thing. And if you recall our earlier conversation with Dr. Zato, he did indicate that some of the decisions that need to be made at certain points are political decisions to be made. In fact, some people will tell you that the power to prosecute or the decision to prosecute in itself is a political decision. Because when you look at the whole architecture, not as in partisan politics, but it's a political decision. But that's just to say that, yes, same fact, two people are seeing it differently.
Absolutely.
But as long as there's justification for it and there's basis for it, then that's what it is. So you are right. This particular matter came up. Professor Kwaku put it up in that petition that was dismissed by the former president. However, this finds its way into the Daniel Ofori's petition, looked by a different president together with the Council of State. They think there's merit in it. They put it before a committee of 5, including 2 Supreme Court judges or justices. They look at it. They think that it is one that is good enough to ground or to be a ground for the removal of a Chief Justice. And this is how they went about it. They didn't just end there. The final bit of this one, as I was showing, so let's take it back from here. That's the appointment of the Chief Justice. No, not this. Let's still stay on that particular slide because it continues to say that, therefore, having said all that has been said, that to seek wittingly to outwit this known process and procedure for appointing Supreme Court justices amounts to misbehavior in the eyes of the committee, and the committee finds it as such. So it is the position of the committee that it was an attempt to outwit what has become a known process.
I see. It's a pretty interesting derivation that you're making there, because then it brings matters to perspective. But then again, let's just establish that this decision to have the Chief Justice removed was just on the basis of one of the 3 petitions received by the president forwarded to the Council of State, upon which this 5-member committee was established. This is just Daniel Ofori's petition. That the committee, based on the details as we have it, the committee had evidence in this Daniel Ofori petition from 13 witnesses on behalf of the petitioner, Daniel Ofori. Not alone, the Chief Justice, or the former Chief Justice now, also testified and was cross-examined, and she called 12 witnesses, including experts as well. And in total, the panel received approximately 10,000 pages of documentary exhibits from both sides. So this clearly was a very thorough process of what we're talking about, 10,000 documentary evidence. Throughout the process. And this is just one petition.
One petition. But mind you, the chair of the committee also did indicate that even though the reliefs of the 3 petitions were the same, they were distinct in their own way. So that's to say, yes, we all may be seeking the same end, but that's what we came to the table with distinctively are different. And I think that's important because many were asking, or there's that conversation already, that if the petitions were 3, why would the committee submit a report on just one and not wait to finish all the 3 before submitting the 3 reports to the presidency? But if you listen to the chair of the committee, Justice Palmer, indicating that they are distinct in their own way, and to think that these are independent persons who have submitted petitions at various times, there should not be a reason that one should necessarily be tied to the other.
Right.
But of course, the point that needs to be made and emphasized is the fact where he says that, yes, they seek the same thing, but they are distinctively different.
It's a very, very important denominator we need to establish in there. But let's hear from the chair of this 5-member committee, Justice Gabriel Scott Palmer, when he presented this report of the 5-member committee to the president earlier today. And based on the recommendations in this committee's report, that the president acted. In fact, he was bound by this recommendation as stipulated in Article 1469 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, and the decision to have the Chief Justice removed communicated in that statement from the presidency earlier today. This is what the chair of this 5-member committee said earlier today. Take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, in March this year, you received 3 petitions pursuant to Article 146 of the Constitution 1992 for the removal of Chief Justice Gertrude Asaba Araba Sakitokon, and the public was made aware of this fact. Subsequent processes dictated by the Constitution and the decisions of our Supreme Court were gone through, culminating in the establishment of our committee under Article 146, Clause 6 of the Constitution. The nation was further duly informed, and when we commenced our work on the 15th of May 2025, the Minister of State for Government Communications was briefed and notified the public about it. There has been considerable interest in our work, shown through comments and opinions by Ghanaians and international observers as well. However, the committee restrained itself all along from reacting, even when blatant false statements were made about members of the committee and our work. To the committee, our mandate and remit is set out under Article 146, Clauses 7 and 8 of the Constitution. It's clear, and it is to inquire into the petitions in camera, hear the person against whom the petitions have been brought in her defense, by herself or by her lawyer or other aspect of her case, and then make a recommendation to you, Mr. President. As I have said above, 3 petitions were referred to us. And though all 3 petitions seek the same relief, each petition is distinct and would succeed or fail on its individual strengths or weaknesses. Mr. President, without disclosing the substance of the proceedings, and since in-camera proceedings is not the same as in secret, we can state that in respect of the first petition, we received evidence by Mr. Daniel Ofori, the first petitioner, through 13 witnesses. Similarly, the Chief Justice in her defense called 12 witnesses, including expert witnesses, as she is entitled to do under the Constitution. The Chief Justice testified personally and was cross-examined. The committee received about 10,000 pages of documentary evidence from both sides. There were 4 lawyers that represented the first petitioner, Daniel Ofori, and 4 lawyers represented the Chief Justice. Mr. President, after critical and dispassionate examination and assessment of all the evidence, including the expert evidence, against the provisions of the Constitution and the relevant laws, we have, without fear or favor, arrived at a recommendation on the first petition. The recommendation is contained in the envelope which I now give to you.
So that's what happened earlier today, and the 5-member committee discharging that duty upon them as enshrined in Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. But this is just one of 3 petitions that they received that they had to have hearings on. So we asked questions earlier about what happens to the other 2. And we got indication, the likes of Martin Pebu, private legal practitioners as well. The committee should not waste their time on the other two lists because, I mean, it will be inconsequential to the outcome as we have seen now. Right? Others think otherwise. That, for instance, near equal to the lead counsel for the former Chief Justice says the committee had rescheduled, or in fact, they had scheduled a meeting with them again on the 15th of September, which is some 14 days away from today.
Yeah.
So if a decision has been communicated today, then what happens to that hearing on the 15th? You decide to go or not?
Well, I mean, I think Leonard Senior Martin Pebu clearly explained part of it where he mentioned that it will also be on the parties to elect to attend or not to attend. But effectively, yes, it may not affect the outcome of what things have become now, but for purposes of records, if they are minded to proceed with it, they should be allowed to, or they are entitled to actually pursue that course of action.
So on the line of that argument of just for the record
just
purposes,
for the record,
the Kingsley J of Shining Stars of Ghana and the Assistant Commissioner of Police Ayamga Yakubu Akogo, those two petitions
precisely so
should just
but
travel to its
bottom line,
conclusion.
like Leonard Senior said, it has no effect on what things have become now.
But they should travel to its logical conclusion.
For purposes, just for the record, it should be allowed to travel its full course. Maybe you never can tell. It adds to our jurisprudence. Some things may emerge from those hearings that will add to our jurisprudence, especially so when the conversation has now become very broad about the need to look again at proceedings under Article 146.
Indeed.
But Alfred, just before we ended, in that document that was sent to the Chief Justice, the attachment of the warrant, that also answers a question that was very debatable in the public space as to whether the removal of the Chief Justice is only in respect of her administrative role as a Chief Justice or her as a Justice of the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Now, when you read the warrant of removal carefully, you would find that the warrant speaks about removing her from the office of the Chief Justice and the Justice of the Supreme Court with effect from the dates hereof. So that effectively answers the question as to what the committee did. And this is not just contained in the warrant. I mean, in that letter where the presidency is writing to the Chief Justice, and this letter is written by the Secretary to the President, Dr. Callistus Mahama, it says that after everything has been said, including the things that we read, it says, consequently, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, has, by warrant of removal under his hand and the presidential seal, effected your removal from office as Chief Justice and as Justice of the Supreme Court with effect from the dates of the warrant.
So this affects the dual role of Justice Rabbi Sabato Kono?
Yes.
As a judge of the Supreme Court and the head of the judiciary?
Yes. And when this conversation came up and there was debate about which capacities that it affected, Leonard Senior Cedro Leonard took to social media to make this point. He argues that it is untenable in law to argue that the Chief Justice can return as a Justice of the Supreme Court. Her removal implies she has been removed as a judge and as a Chief Justice. She loses all her entitlements and pension. From precedence, she may return to private practice. I wish we didn't have to arrive at this destination. This is a lawyer speaking. And let's just stay a bit on some of the reactions.
And I mentioned Professor Stephen Kwekwasare earlier.
Yes,
His petition
earlier
on this same path was thrown out by the former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Yes.
And what's he been saying about this?
Gogo thanks the committee for its diligent work and, consistent with past practice, will respect its recommendations. This was before the actual announcement from the presidency came to the effect that the Chief Justice has now been removed.
Right.
You know, earlier there was a meeting with the committee to receive the report, and the conversation then was, after the receipt of the report, what next? I mean, he talks about consistency with past practice and that the process, I mean, the recommendations need to be respected. Another lawyer, our very good friend Benjamin Tachi, he says that her ladyship Chief Justice removed from office. The CJ's removal is obviously not good for the independence of the judiciary, but the Constitution supports her removal. This solution lies in the amendment of Article 146 of the Constitution. So it indicates.
Yes.
And then again, earlier when you spoke to lawyer Martin Pebu, he also raised the issue about the need to relook Article 146. That finds favor with lawyer Benjamin Techi in this particular respect.
And this process is ongoing. The review of the 1992 Constitution, and Professor H. Kwesi and his team, they're leading that one.
Precisely.
I think that this development is going to be a major one in terms of reference point for them as well, and which aspect of 146 will be looked at. Because earlier you made the point clearly that, look, the removal process of the Chief Justice is not explicitly stated in 146.
No.
But there is a particular case law you reference,
yes,
which then defines the process at play now. Let's recall that.
So that refers to, you can find that in Article 146(1), where, in fact, Article 146 talks generally about removal of justices of the superior courts and chairmen of regional tribunals, because these form part of the superior courts. You do not see on the face of Article 146 a procedure for the removal of, say, Chief Justice.
As in that title or that position in black and white.
So it says that superior courts and then chairman of regional tribunal to be removed. However, I indicated Frank Ejechum was the Attorney General. The court took the view that to the extent that the Chief Justice is first and foremost a justice of the Supreme Court, then this should be the procedure that should be adopted in the removal process.
Because she's first a judge,
yes,
before anything else.
Exactly. Even though in the subsequent clauses you find reference to Chief Justice, however, where it begins from, stating the grounds for the removal, you do not find Chief Justice there.
Let's see. Let's run through 146, just for the benefit of the uninitiated and what is at play right now.
Yes, so 146(1) simply talks about the grounds for the removal of these persons, Superior Court justices and chairman of regional tribunal. Superior courts simply refer to the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, and then the High Court. Right. Regional tribunals, if they exist. At the moment, we don't have any. 2 talks about a justice of the Superior Court of Judicature or chairman may be removed only in accordance with the procedure specified in this particular article. That's Article 146. It continues to say, and this is now by way of where the president receives a petition for the removal of a justice of the Superior Court other than the Chief Justice, or for the removal of the chairman of the regional tribunal, he shall refer the petition to Chief Justice, who shall determine whether there is a prima facie case. This applies to justices of the Supreme Court, not the Chief Justice himself or herself.
Right.
And like I explained earlier, there was a petition that was brought against Justice Poamang. That petition was later withdrawn. But if it were to proceed and there was the need for a prima facie case to be determined, then that petition had to be referred to the Chief Justice. But we didn't get there. The petitioners withdrew that.
Right.
When you look at the 4, that where the Chief Justice, and this also applies to justices of the Supreme Court, not the Chief Justice, because remember, in the case of a justice of the Supreme Court, it's the Chief Justice who is dealing with it, talking about the Chief Justice finding a prima facie. So they are saying that where the Chief Justice decides that it's a prima facie case, he shall set up a committee to investigate all that. Our focus tonight is not on the Justice of the Supreme Court, but the Chief Justice. So let's fast track to where we will find the one that relates to the Chief Justice. 6, 146 says that.
Yes.
Where the petition is for the removal of the Chief Justice, the President shall, acting in consultation with the Council of States, appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices. Now, mind you, one of the issues that the Frank Ejechum case resolved also had to do with who determines the prima facie case when it involves the Chief Justice herself. Because when you look at the earlier provisions that we've looked at, which involves justices of the Supreme Court, it is the Chief Justice who determines the prima facie case.
Absolutely.
In her case, the law is silent here. And that was how come the court had to take the view that, okay, so then when it comes to the Chief Justice, the determination of the prima facie case should be done by the President together in consultation with the Council of States.
Okay.
So even without the review that many are calling for, case law in itself had come to fill in some gaps that already existed in this particular law.
I see.
So, acting in consultation with the Council of States, now appoint a committee consisting 2 justices of the Supreme Court, and in this case, we have seen the Justice of the Supreme Court on that particular committee, Justice Poamang and Justice Asedu, one of whom shall be appointed chairman by the President. In that case, we saw that Justice Poamang, one of the 2 Supreme Court justices who were in the committee, appointed chairman of that particular committee. And 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor lawyers. That's how come we saw the likes of the former Auditor General, Daniel Demolevu, and others also being part of it.
Right.
This, you can see, they constitute the laymen. And that's one of the issues that Vincent has a problem with. We'll soon go into what his stake is, because he was one of the first people to have gone to court to seek an interpretation, and subsequent to that, seeking to halt the processes. He doesn't seem happy about the outcome of the thing, of what has now become the state of affairs, and he thinks that there should be a real look at the law. He points to specific places of the law, which we'll get into.
So the committee members, apart from Justice Gabriel Scott Poamang, we have Justice Samuel Adibo Esiedu.
Yes.
And a former Auditor General, Daniel Demelovo, is a chair of the IOCO board now. Major Flora Bazanora Dalugo and Professor James Sefa Jisa. These are the 5 members of the committee whose decision has been given to the president, upon which this decision was taken by the president earlier today. But you look at the details of it, and then let's pause there. Let's hear from the Minister in charge of Government Communications, Phyllis Kwachofosu, when I spoke to him earlier, about those who also say that all of this is laced with the politics of things. It says it cannot be the case because this was a purely constitutional process that was stipulated in the law every step of the way. This is what he had to say to that. Take a look.
Well, I believe so, except to say that the chairman of the committee, in the presentation of the committee's report, stated that there were 2 outstanding petitions that they had not looked into because they had received representations from the parties involved for an adjournment of hearing into those matters. But with respect to the Daniel Ofori petition, there was no such request, and therefore they proceeded to look into it. And it was on the basis of their work on that petition that they have recommended the removal of the Chief Justice, which the President has done, as communicated in the statement that I issued a while ago.
I see. And so the other 2 petitions, any indication that the committee is minded to getting to it, or because this really is the ultimate outcome, that if the process had played out, either or not, or whether or not she was going to be removed or otherwise, now that she's been removed, well, the likes of Matic Bebo say that the committee should not waste their time getting into the other 2. Any indication of what the committee's decision is on the other 2?
Well, government is not in a position to dictate to the committee how they should or when they should do their work. So it is entirely within the purview of the committee to decide what to make of the outstanding 2 petitions. But the president has acted strictly in accordance with the constitutional stipulation that enjoins him to carry out the recommendations of the committee. That is what has happened today.
How do you respond to the likes of Joshua Zato on the other line, who says that all of this process was dotted with politics, even though it is stipulated in the Constitution?
Well, being an MPP partisan, you would expect him to take a position similar to what his party has taken. If he doesn't furnish any basis for that position, except to make it, just like his party propagandists and members have done. But everybody who is fair-minded and has followed this process will be clear in their minds that the president has done strictly to constitutional provisions. As of the MPP, they can abrogate and reproduce that when they want. When they were in power, the same Article 146 was used to remove the then head of the Electoral Commission, Madame Sanatosa, and 2 other deputies. I didn't hear Dr. Gato offer a whimper on that occasion and express any belief of political motivation. Suddenly, political motivation has been invented by him to smear this process in order to achieve a certain political end. I don't think that is the kind of discourse or commentary we should be having on this particular matter. Let Dr. Gato and the rest of them in the MPP point to any specific infraction on the part of the president in respect of his handling of this matter. And you will find that, and indeed till date, nobody from the account has been able to point to any infraction, or no other person in any quarter within our society has been able to point to any infraction. That tells you, that shows you clearly that the Rama has acted above board. We have acted within the limits of the law, and that is what the law says should be done. With the Council of States determine prima facie. That is the word of the Constitution. Now then, Dr. Gato decides on his own that the Constitution should be disregarded because he believes that his party must rule and support behind the Chief Justice. I don't think that we can entertain that kind of logic.
Okay.
It is completely wrong. What he is asking the president to do is a violation of the Constitution. Indeed, the president will be liable for removal from office if he fails to act in the way that he acted.
Now that this decision has been communicated, when will the process for the substantive Chief Justice be named start?
Yeah, I think that it is only a matter of time. The consultation of the appropriate authority, the president will make the appointment. Then it will be communicated to the people of Ghana.
Felix Kwatiofoso is a minister in charge of government communications who spoke to him earlier. Says the coming days is one that we'll watch closely as well as to what would happen with the substantive Chief Justice being named. There are some reports that a decision has already been taken that we cannot corroborate officially. So we'll wait for that official communication from the presidency on this.
Yes.
But still with the reactions, you reference the Old Tafo Member of Parliament is also a private legal practitioner himself,
yes.
Vincent Asifua, and he issued a statement earlier.
He did. And that's is in response to the developments.
Mm-hmm.
He titles it, "My Take on the Removal of the Chief Justice." And what is instructive of Vincent is that, like I said, he was the first person to take up the legal matter in respect of the proceedings under this particular provision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he says that the removal of the Chief Justice is not just a constitutional setback, it is a calculated political maneuver that strikes at the very heart of our democracy by exploiting the flaws in Article 146. He acknowledges that there are flaws in 146,
mm-hmm.
that President John Dramani Mahama has turned what should have been a sacred constitutional safeguard into a partisan weapon. With 11 of the Council of State members appointed by him, what my learned senior doesn't say is that there are 31 Council of State members.
Indeed.
So with 11 of the Council of State members appointed by him, the so-called consultation in determining a prima facie case was nothing more than a rubber stamp for executive interests. What this means is simple but frightening. The Chief Justice is no longer truly independent. Her tenure has been made coterminous with that of the President, reducing the head of our judiciary into a political casualty at the whim of the executive. That is not democracy. It is executive capture of the judiciary. Even more disturbing, the Human Rights Court refused to assume jurisdiction over her petition. Think about the message that sends. If the Chief Justice herself cannot secure a fair hearing, then what hope exists for the ordinary Ghanaian? This is the clearest evidence yet that under the NDC government, justice is no longer blind, it is bound and gagged. The allegation that birthed this removal were flimsy at best and laughable at worst. Traveling with her spouse, for instance, is hardly there, in quote, stated misbehavior envisioned by Article 1461. Yet such weak claims were enough to unseat a Chief Justice, exposing how low the threshold has been set when political expediency is at play. And while Article 1466 itself provides that the impeachment committee be made up of 2 Supreme Court justices and 3 other members who are not lawyers, this arrangement has proven deeply problematic. And that's the point I signaled when I was indicating the membership of the committee.
Yes.
He thinks that the composition of the committee itself, with 2 Supreme Court justices and 3 ordinary persons, in itself is problematic. In practice, it allows non-lawyers to hold the decisive majority on technical legal issues. Questions of admissibility, procedure, and law can effectively be settled by persons without the training to fully appreciate them. This constitutional flaw, left uncorrected, tilts the balance away from legal scrutiny and leaves the process vulnerable to partisan manipulation. And this dangerous precedent is now part of Ghana's constitutional fabric. Judicial independence guaranteed under Articles 125 and 127 has sacrificed on the altar of political control. And make no mistakes, this is the legacy President Mahama and the NDC are writing: a judiciary at the mercy of the executive, a democracy hollowed out by partisanship, and a constitution whose spirit has been trampled upon. This is an attack on the rule of law and a betrayal of the promise of freedom and justice. If unchecked, this precedent will haunt Ghana for years to come. It is now the duty of Parliament and every Ghanaian who believes in democracy to fight for reforms that will insulate the judiciary from this kind of political manipulation. History will record that under President Mahama, Ghana crossed a line where the removal of the Chief Justice was reduced to a political project. Whether we allow that precedent to stand unchallenged will determine the true strength of our democracy.
Let's see. You see, as to how or who determines what the magnitude of a misconduct,
precisely,
whether it's small or otherwise, another conversation that we'll also get into in the coming days, because the gravamen of an issue is not in the bosom of a lawyer, as you say, is it not?
Yes.
Let's hear from lawyer Martin Pebo. Earlier we spoke to him. He's a private legal practitioner, and he says that, look, this is no surprise, because in his view, he had actually recommended that the former Chief Justice should have resigned right from the get-go. Take a look.
Yes, well, so like they say, the law is the law. So at this juncture, the law has taken its course, and so that will be it. We're hoping that this will bring closure to this case so that we can, go on to concentrate on other matters of improving the judiciary. Yes, I mean, my position, as I said earlier, I was hoping there would be a window for her to resign way from the beginning. But, it didn't happen. Also the Supreme Court too had held that in the Justice Utaderi case, and also in the Frankie J. Chum case, that once they start the hearings, then the respondent, that's to say in this case, the Chief Justice, has no right to resign. I was hoping there would be a political settlement that would have resulted in a resignation. But as I said, that was hope. But all of that didn't materialize. So once the committee is done with its work, and then that's based on the first petition alone, and once she's been removed based on the first petition alone, I mean, well, that's it. We will see whether the committee will have the appetite to go into the other 2 petitions. It doesn't appear it will be a good use of our time, but that's just my personal opinion. Let's see how it goes. So Article 146, well, that's been it. We're hoping also that going forward, the Constitution Review Commission, based on what we've seen in these proceedings, would strengthen the provisions to make them better in future. I think that's what I can say for now.
See, and you're saying indeed the case that the decision of this committees to have the Chief Justice removed was on the basis of the details of the first petitioner, Daniel Ofori's petition. So the other 2, you'll say that, in your view, it would not serve the good of time if the committee goes into the other 2?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Because right now, she's been removed. And so once she's been removed, I'm wondering what good it would do to continue the hearings. But in law, well, it's allowed, because once the cases are still before the committee can go on. It would also be within the right of the petitioners to withdraw, to say, look, okay, if Madam Tokonu has already been removed, they want to withdraw from having their cases heard. Yes, so that maybe, because you see, I'm saying this because let's not also forget, Madam Tokonu is fought this case every step of the way. My colleague, Wedam Puabri, has already, gone through, both of you have gone through the milestones. The, filing a case in the ECOWAS court, now the final one being the so-called group of the Bar of England and Wales jumping in, a letter that a lot of us had issues with in terms of its authenticity, not being signed, and the language in the letter, etc. But whatever it is, there was such, traction, that at every point she sought to fight back, and the various fora, etc. she's been to have resulted in a way, in giving us bad press. We can't run away that we've suffered bad press, a reputational damage to the brand name Ghana, because you see the kind of things that the so-called Bar of England and Wales wrote in their letter, the Commonwealth Lawyers Association also wrote earlier on. You see all that language taking us to the ECOWAS court, all those things, and the allegations of bias and all that, they've hit us. They've damaged us a bit. So for me, usually, if you can avoid litigation, avoid it. It's even in the Bible. But the Bible says that, hey, if your brother, somebody is taking you to court and you can settle the case on the way, settle it before you go and then you get thrown into jail, right? There is something like that in the Bible. So in this case, we are looking at protecting the brand name Ghana. We are quite a strong democracy in this sub-region, but globally, we are still a fragile kind of democracy. So when there are issues like this being circulated internationally, it reinforces the notion that we are still not that much capable of running our own affairs. So it's in that context that I was hoping that maybe the second and third petitions would not be gone into so that we can, have closure.
But you made the point about the Chief Justice challenging this process every step of the way. And the details as Justice Korpoaman gave today complements that point that you made, because the committee had evidence from 13 witnesses on behalf of the petitioner. The Chief Justice, the now removed Chief Justice, also testified and was cross-examined. She called 12 witnesses, including experts. In total, the panel said they received approximately 10,000 pages of documentary exhibits from both sides. Each side was represented by 4 lawyers. It's a very meticulous process we've seen play out up until this point, is it not?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's been grueling. Yes, because, to have 13 witnesses for the petitioner, 12 for respondent, 25, and you see each one of these was given evidence, so that's what we call evidence in chief, right? Through the witness statements that the witnesses filed, then cross-examination. So cross-examination of all these 25 persons. It's a lot. It's not joke. That's quite a robust process, rigorous and robust. And of course, it's taking a toll. Because from dispatches that we could hear, for them to have finished this quickly, they would go in the morning and close in the evening. So it was usually a full day's work, morning to evening, right? A number of days in the week. So it's been a lot of work. Yes, that one we can't run away from it. And in natural fact, we should commend the committee and everybody involved for cooperating for this work to be done in such a time.
Mm-hmm. And we know that the Chief Justice has a dual role. As a judge or a justice of the Supreme Court, and then also the head of the judiciary. Now, she's been sacked as the Chief Justice, essentially the head of the judiciary. What happens to her role as a Justice of the Supreme Court?
Okay, yes, so with this, it goes the two of them. Yes, it goes for the two of them because it's not that she misbehaved as Chief Justice separate from being a Justice of the Superior Court, right? No, they touch both offices because yes, she's a judge of the Supreme Court and also at the same time Chief Justice. The matters that were raised are matters that if a judge, ordinary judge, were involved in and then there was evidence against that judge, the judge would be removed. So in similar vein, since the Chief Justice is a Justice of the Superior Court, and when we say Superior Court, that's High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, right? Yeah, so it's the same thing for Chief Justice and for any other judge of the Superior Court. Okay, so it can't be that she's been removed as Chief Justice, but she would come and continue as a Supreme Court judge. No. The law doesn't allow a Supreme Court judge to be engaged in the matters that were alleged to have been engaged in.
Well, that's Martin Pepo, is private legal practitioner. There is also advocating that the full details of the report of this committee should be made public. It's one also that forms a conversation, the aftermath of this, the removal of the Chief Justice. This is the first time we're seeing this happen in the Fourth Republic, so you can best describe it as unprecedented. That's why you would have such conversations about what the constitutional provision really is and whether it should stand. I mean, the details of Article 146 should remain as it is because of the risk of it being subjected to, in the coming years, other forms of implementation for that matter. But this is one that the Constitutional Review Committee would also spend some time on. That is, even if they haven't started that already.
Yes.
But let's conclude on Vincent Assefuah and matters arising quickly.
Yes, I think we're basically done with Vincent Assefuah, and the fact that the point where he makes about the composition of the committee, saying that there are a lot more people who understand the major technical issues more than those who do not appreciate them being in the majority. He goes on to talk about questions of admissibility, procedure, and law that can be effectively settled by persons without the training of fully appreciating them. I mean, that's a fair point to make. But of course, what Vincent doesn't add is the fact that in matters like this, it's not just about the questions of law or questions of admissibility or procedure.
Right.
There are also questions of facts. And questions of facts are best addressed by lay people. It is the reason that when you look at our criminal justice system, in respect of indictable offenses where you have trial by judge and jury, you have only one judge sitting with 7 jurors. Who are not. They are just lay and ordinary persons. So if he's advocating that this be recomposed in that sense, that a lot more people who appreciate law procedure, will he also be advocating that such a process also be changed along those same lines? But of course, it's a fair point to make and also to draw attention to what he believes needs to be looked at. But I'm also just saying that, I mean, beyond the law, there are questions of fact that need to be answered.
Which will be ascertained by mere mortals.
At least. You should also have a place.
Indeed.
I should have a place.
We're back shortly after this quick break. This is an extended version of Ghana Tonight. So stay with us. We're going straight to Akwatia. Akwatia is not sleeping tonight, and we're not also sleeping. We're focusing on the happenings ahead of that crucial by-election tomorrow. My colleague Eric Mawanai is connecting with us from Akwatia. After this quick break, stay with us.
reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle.
From the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News. Leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
And we remain at your election command center, and we'll be building up strongly to the Akwatia by-election right from the 2nd of August when this unfortunate incident happened and how things have been shaping up to the by-election tomorrow in the Akwatia constituency. Now, the leader of the Peace Council delegation in the Akwatia constituency, Sheikh Arimi Al-Shaibu, has stated though the 2 political parties, that's the MPP and the NDC, haven't shown up for the meeting or did not show up for the meeting with the Peace Council ahead of the by-election tomorrow. They are still waiting for them for that important meeting ahead of tomorrow's elections. And he added that if the need arises for them to meet the parties individually, they will do so to have them sign a peace pact ahead of the by-election tomorrow. Take a look.
Good evening and thank you so much for coming. With respect to why we are here, as we indicated to you in the morning, we had earlier engagements, separate engagements with the headquarters of the 2 political parties, both NDC and MPP, took some concerns. Subsequent to that, we had a meeting with the IGP to address some of the concerns that we know had been raised. And then subsequently, we also had a meeting with the chairman of the Electoral Commission also to seek to address what in our estimation will help us to have peaceful election in Akwatia, contrary to what we saw at the moment. The two parties earlier on were represented, but there were some issues of concern that needed to be resolved in the spirit of mutual dialogue and mutual respect. The two parties agreed to suspend the meeting. As it is now, our assumption is that because tomorrow is the election day,
That's Sheikh Armi Al-Shaibu. Then, away from the Peace Council, the meeting with the Electoral Commission, we're also getting information. They say they are ready for the distribution of election materials to begin. And we understand that has also started or taken place already. Now, they say all officials are trained and will need the cooperation of all parties involved in this election. I'm talking about the MPP, the NDC, and the LPG. Kofi Akpalu's LPG also will be on the ballot paper tomorrow in Akwatia constituency. Dr. Asribo Akweku is the Director of Training at the Electoral Commission and the Regional Chair of the Commission will be speaking ahead of tomorrow. Take a look.
In summary, we are set for the election. We can even start right now, so everything's
everything is set. We've seen the materials and all of that ready and present. Has there been communication and understanding between all the parties as to when distribution will be done, and will we need their presence for that to be done as well?
Yeah, they have been informed, so what we are left with the distribution of the ballot papers. So very soon you will see them around. But all the other materials are in the boxes as we have seen, with the exception of the ballot papers. But you know that is a very critical document, so we will not put them in when, even if they were to be in the box, we will not be allowed inside the room.
Inside the room. And you've mentioned that that's critical. At what point does that come in for distribution? I know obviously the security.
The next 30 minutes, we'll start handling that.
The security will start handling that. In terms of your officials as well, what's the level of preparedness? We know by-elections come with a lot of intensity from both parties seeking to swing the seat in their favor.
We are ready. We have given them all the necessary training, so we are expecting that everything will be done according to the laws, and we are expecting that all the stakeholders will give them the necessary support. No matter the provision the Electoral Commission will give to the officials, if the other stakeholders are not ready to cooperate, we have challenges. So, as I've always been saying, that election is the work of everybody. All stakeholders should be on hand and give us the support. If we are doing and the other stakeholders are not ready, including you, the media, we decide not to give the right information, they can take over for us. So all the stakeholders, including the media, political parties, security, and whoever should cooperate with us, and we do professional work.
Just finally on the political parties, we know you've engaged them in the past. Have you engaged them since you got to Akwatia again? What's been the conversation? Because you've mentioned that you need the collaboration.
I want the region to answer that. Because
all right.
It was localized.
It was localized. Okay.
We've engaged them. Last week, Wednesday, we engaged them at the office of the District Assembly. MPP, NDC, and LPG, their reps were present, and we discussed the do's and don'ts of the process. We went into detail and discussed the electoral process, and at the end, they were so satisfied, and they all prayed that they will assist so that we have peaceful elections come Tuesday.
Well, that's my colleague Eric Mauneg-Beta, who is there in the constituency together with Yvonne Nikwe as well, is going to be joining me. Eric Mauneg-Beta is joining me right now. Yvonne Nikwe is going to be connecting with me on Zoom. Mauna, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. We're building up strongly to the Akwatia by-election tomorrow. Now, this by-election, which is just some hours away, so a little over 7 hours away, as we say now. Talk to us about what's happening where you are on the ground in the Akwatia constituency.
Alfred, just in your short really is a briefing by the Inspector General of Police to a number of the officials who are here, stationed here in the lead up to that by-election. tomorrow. It's just a few hours right now, Alfred, to that election. It's been a hard day, crisscrossing different parts, seeking to get respective views on a day where campaigning is not supposed to be happening, picking thoughts in one way or the other from different persons as to what is expected to happen tomorrow. But now we can say confidently that any moment from now, the elections will come off. It will be peaceful, and that is the order he's given to night here as we continue to monitor proceedings ahead of that crucial by-election tomorrow. Akwatia is a swing constituency. It's witnessed its fair share of violence in the past, and for many watchers looking at how by-elections have gone, and even with just the North rerun of some 19 polling stations and the fact that there was disturbances, there is very genuine concern that all must be done to ensure that amongst the many things which will come out of the elections tomorrow, peace will be the most that will be looked out for in all of the deliberations of the Inspector Alfred right now from the engagement by COP Christian, the Inspector General of Police. A lot later, we'll go back inside for you quickly, Alfred, as well, to get an understanding of what is active sealing of the ballot boxes by respective party agents as well as EC officials, where these election materials will be on its way to 119 polling stations where voting is expected to take place a lot later in the morning. But right now, it's all good, and ensure that safety is priority. What we've also gotten wind of is the IGP's insistence, amongst many other things, that the media must be protected in all of the operations tomorrow. The police officers must not touch media persons to ensure that they all come out of this clean. And there's a reason for that, because we know that at the Abilikuma North rerun, a police officer has been they touched an official, but we can just perhaps listen into their chants tomorrow.
We will get there. We know we will. Wayaya, 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 wayaya.
Law enforcers,
enforce the law. Yeah.
And so that's the police. That's the police in quite some exciting splendor, getting all the briefing and then throwing back the morale to the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yohonu. And a lot more of this and more is what we'll be expecting from them as law enforcers enforce the law, and ensuring peace is all of the things that they'll be looking forward to doing, God willing, tomorrow. And Alfred, these are details I will bring into you exclusively here on your Election Command Center as we continue to monitor proceedings for you by way of the Akwatia by-elections, what we've seen, what is playing out, and what will continue to play out all throughout the morning of the election. And we will be here all through up until polls close, a victor is declared. We get words from the victor. In which direction will it go is a big question on the minds of every Ghanaian who's watching at home and following through on the proceedings which we, your Election Command Center, are bringing to them kind courtesy of being here in Akwatia and being active players and active participators in the democratic process as well. And so they will march on from here because they've gotten their marching orders as well in terms of what it is that there is messaging from the Inspector General of Police. And so this is from the police, Alfred, and we'll just go now to the polling, the collation center proper. But the IGP as well has stressed that they must protect the media, and when they do that, they'll be receiving awards for themselves as well. And so, Alfred, I'm just going to go quickly back inside there. That's the collation center where all is expected to be done, and then declarations will be made. We know of the many things expected to happen as well is that some commissioners, we do not know whom, but I mean, good word on the ground that they will come around tomorrow as well to monitor the development here. Akwatia speaks a lot of interest, and there's a lot of reason why it should, but this is what we know thus far. The processes are fast underway with distribution, and any moment from now, the police officers will line up again, and then we'll begin to escort these materials to the polling stations where voting is expected to take place. Alfred
and Mauna, great job, great detail there. Mauna, stay with me because this is a place that will be a hotbed of political activity. Shortly, in just a little over 7 hours from now, polls will open in the Akwatia constituency. Mana, I'd want you to move to the coalition center of the Electoral Commission in the constituency, because we do know that that's where the electoral materials are going to, in fact, we understand they started dispatching the materials as of the time that you've been there. And clearly the police giving us an indication of what they're prepared to do tomorrow to ensure law and order and nib any act of violence in the bar tomorrow. We have 5,500 police personnel on ground tomorrow in the Akwatia constituency. Let's cross over to another location where Yvonne Nikwe, another commander on the ground on your election command center. Yvonne, now, I know you've been monitoring developments where you are as well. Tell us how it's building up ahead of tomorrow, the crucial by-election for the Akwatia constituency.
Well, Alfred, today has been peaceful, but from the evening going on to this material movement, the eagerness is up in the people. The electorates are fired up. They're ready and willing to vote in tomorrow's election, just about a few hours to come by. We're hoping that when the time struck by 7 a.m., we'll see the queues join in and then cast their ballots peacefully and then return to their houses as the Electoral Commission and other stakeholders participate to ensure that every ballot that is casted is counted.
You've been interacting with the residents as we build up strongly to Akwatia by-election tomorrow. What have they been telling you ahead of tomorrow?
Well, for the constituents in this area, one thing stands for them. They are looking for somebody who would be able to deliver on the social economic development of this community, who will give them jobs, who will improve upon infrastructure, who will give their youth a lot of work to do. So these three things stand up as a priority to what they'll be looking for to vote for in the elections tomorrow. A lot of them understand that it's one of the elections that they cannot do without, because they need somebody to represent them and represent them well to ensure that they have life-changing opportunities as well.
Mm-hmm. And Yvonne, I appreciate you for this. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're in this together tomorrow, Yvonne. Certainly, we wish you well on the ground. Thank you so much. Yvonne Nikwe is our Eastern Regional Correspondent, together with Eric Mawana in the Akwatia constituency. We have it all covered, and the rest of the team. This is the place to be here on your Election Command Center across all media journal platforms. We start coverage at 5 a.m. That's how serious we've taken this by-election in the Akwatia constituency. But Marna, you are at the coalition center now. We know that the materials, they've started moving them to the various polling stations, 119 of them. Now, give us a feel of what's happening in this coalition center right now.
And so, right, Alfred, we're inside now, and as you can see, a lot of active work currently underway. Some of those devices, not quite sure exactly what that is supposed to be used for, but you see the EC officials actively engaged quickly, amongst many other things, ensuring that these ballot boxes are sealed. We're seeing party agents as well. The police present here has been outstanding. They've been here all through. This is the coalition center, and this is where everything will come down, and I suspect this is where the display of the election results as well will take place from. And so we will be inside here at some point a lot later in the day and get details of that. But all throughout this place, it will be a very busy hive for deciding or determining the outcome of the elections, because all the polling station results will be coming here, tabulations will be happening, and then the expectation is that declarations will be made here. And we've tried to show you just a close proximity with where the police officers are stationed, and the fact that it will be a place where there will be little room for persons or supporters to make their way here. Strictly party officials. If you don't have accreditation, you will not be allowed in, and we're just here because the election is yet to start officially and properly. This is what it looks like here, and this is where we're going to leave you as well, Alfred, and then prepare for the morning where the elections will start at 7 a.m. The materials are going to be leaving here any moment from now to the polling stations where voting is expected to start, and then we'll see how it all pans out tomorrow, whether or not it's the NDC or the NPP or LPG even, because you cannot ever be able to tell. We will be on hand to bring you details here on your election command center.
Akwatia, thank you very much for this. And that is exactly how things are going to play out tomorrow. We've shown you what to expect tomorrow with our coverage here on your election command center. And Akwatia is not sleeping, and we clearly have told you our statement of commitment to you, our viewers. We're not sleeping as we're keeping an eye on what's happening in Akwatia constituency as things build up strongly. Some 7 hours away from now, polls will open, and it all begins here on your election command center. Well, so this is exactly how issues are going to play out tomorrow in this place. And we'll show you the geographical location of where this Akwatia constituency is. It's going to be a hotbed of political activity. And let's take you there right now. And this is it. This is how things look like in the Akwatia constituency in terms of their geographical location. But then again, it clearly tells you what we're seeing right now and how issues are playing out in this some 119 polling stations in this Akwatia constituency, plus the many electoral areas in this constituency. This is where the hotbed of political activity, the Akwatia constituency, will be tomorrow. And we are going to be there every step of the way here on your election command center and bringing you all the detail and everything as things will play out in this constituency. This is the place to be. Now, we look at how both political parties have shared this constituency in terms of the electoral history of this Akwatia constituency. The NPP has won it 5 times. The NDC has won it 4 times. So clearly, it fits the definition of a swing constituency since 1992. But these are the electoral areas in the Akwatia constituency. We're going to see a lot happening. And then there are Manfro, we have Amiaso, Adaikrom, Apinamang, Esobong, and then number 4, Awusua, Buedua East, Buedua West, Dwinase, Domia Bra, Kosi, Kwame Kuma, New Wenchi, Kumaning ARS, Saddams, Sechikrom, Swabe, Takrasi, Topremang, Waka Akwatia, Ewaso, all these places, we're going to be there here on your Election Command Center. So stay with us as we promise you nothing but the best of coverage. And we're bringing you every step of the way how things will play out. But in terms of the electoral history of this constituency right from 1992, well, we take out 1992 because of that stolen verdict that the MPP wrote, and they boycotted the parliamentary election in that particular year. But the NDC candidate, Gilbert Kwesi, he represented a constituency in 1992. He won the election in 1996 on the ticket of the NDC. But in the year 2000, the MPP now also began their dominance in the constituency in that 2000 election, which saw the former president, John Agyekum Kufuor, come to power. Kingston Akomenkisi won on the ticket of the MPP. He retained that seat for the MPP in 2004. And in 2008, the reason why a lot of people raised the question of violence in the Akwatia constituency ahead of tomorrow and the history that this constituency has is all because of what happened in 2008. This was a disputed election. It was marred by violence. So Akwatia has a history. But that was an election that we saw the then NDC candidate Baba Jamal go on that path with Kofi Asare. The contested election was one that the outcome was disputed, but eventually, as the case played out, Kofi Asare was declared the MP-elect on the ticket of the MPP in the Akwatia constituency. Baba Jamal came back strongly in 2012 and won that constituency on the ticket of the NDC. And John Dramani Mahama as well, also stemming that particular impact, influence, and dominance in the Akwatia constituency at the time. Then in 2016, in terms of margin of victory, Mercy Edu Jemfe delivered the highest margin of victory in the Akwatia constituency's electoral history for the NPP. But things turned around. In 2020, the NDC came back strongly with Henry Yadomboachi winning on the ticket of the NDC. Now, he represented the NDC in the 2024 election. That election was also disputed. In fact, it was a subject of a litigation in the court of law until NSC Akume's untimely death, which essentially rendered that case moot. So, when the NDC went to the primaries, Henry Yadomboachi contested with his counsel, his lawyer, Bernard Baidu. And guess what? His lawyer won that primaries, now representing the NDC in that constituency in the by-election tomorrow. And what's interesting is that the two top runners going into this by-election tomorrow, I'm talking about Solomon Asimedu of the New Patriotic Party and Bernard Baidu of the NDC. They have a very interesting story, okay? Bernard Baidu is the lawyer of Solomon Asimedu, who is a miner. His company, Owo Mining Company Limited, and the MPP chose that path because Akwatia is a mining town. This man is well known, but Global Info Analytics polls tell something very, very different. But Solomon Asimedu is the client of Bernard Baidu. Bernard Baidu is the lawyer for him and his firm. So we'll see how things play out. This is a straight fight between a lawyer and his client, or a lawyer and a miner. How would the pendulum, or where would the pendulum swing? It all lies in the hands of the Akwatia people and the power of their thumb as well tomorrow. And we will be there to bring you everything you need to know. Eric Mayonegbeta has been speaking to both of them. That's Solomon Asimedu and Bernard Baidu. Let's hear from Solomon Asimedu, and then also now we'll hear from Bernard Baidu as well. Take a look.
To the constituency at Akwatia, which you believe will deliver the votes for you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for coming and having me as well. Okay, so as you know, we have roamed through the whole constituency. We've spoken to the people, we've met the chiefs, we've met opinion leaders, we've met politicians, we've met religious leaders. The problems with Akwatia are known. If you ask any, if you take your microphones around, you would hear varied opinions in terms of what should be done for Akwatia. What the issue really is not about the problems. It's about the solution. How do we get them solved? You've seen our infrastructure. We've seen some, let me say, young men who are roaming. We have is how to resolve it. I have given them hope that beyond the fact that I'm a good advocate, which is known, what also inspires me is the fact that I am the leader of a political party in this election. Which political party has power currently? Which political party is John Dramani Mahama's political party? At the end of the day, there is a certain manifesto that is being run. You understand? The manifesto that is being used to govern currently is the NDC 2024 manifesto. The vision of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama should be consistent with whoever is, has that vision of also leading the constituency. And there is no dispute as to who has that. Honestly, beyond even the partisan, manifesto and all that, I have always been around. I have been in the communities. I've been a constituency secretary. I did all my education, most of them around. And so I know the problems of the people. First and foremost, the human resource must be developed. It must also have something to do in terms of giving them some good work to do or some the trade to ply. Akwatia is known for mining, no doubt about that. The name Akwatia has been so out there because of GCD, if you know GCD. GCD, over the years, has not been functioning. In fact, the situation got worse immediately before that place where we are sitting now was in darkness. That made the company almost shut down. And the environs also go without electricity. We spoke to John Dramani Mahama, then candidate for NDC, and we prayed that he won the election and then fixed the problem. He agreed with us. Immediately after the elections, we went back to him to fix what he promised the people. He came, he asked us to do ABC. We did it, and as we speak, even several months before the by-election, it's not as if we did it because of the by-election. You are here today, you are enjoying power. It's as a result of John Dramani Mahama's intervention, which we also push for same to happen. And so I tell the people that, look, I'm a good advocate. I'm a lawyer. I'm for the people. I do a lot of pro bono cases for the people. I save on virtually anything that comes to my attention. But even beyond that, the bigger things I will not be able to do and has to be done by the central government. You need the lobbying skills. You need to know who is there. You need the people should have your ear so that when you go and tell them what should be done, they will quickly do it. And so this is what I've been telling the people. It's not good enough to have an MP whose vision is not consistent with the central government. If it is like that, the central government, once we operate an executive presidency in this country, all powers. Everything, you understand. And if you need to succeed, surely it's the president that will make you succeed. We have made the people understand that if we are to succeed within these 3.5 years, the central government cannot be ignored. And the central government is my government. And they approve of my coming. In fact, they are the people that are sponsoring this whole election as far as I'm concerned. And so they know what is good for the Akwatia people, and they will deliver through me. And this is what I tell the people, and it's really, they've really imbibed it.
Yesterday, when you spoke briefly at the final rally, you urged for a lot more work to be done, even today up until tomorrow, going door to door amongst many other things. What's the feel on the ground, and is that strategy still being executed?
Well, thank you. As you rightly said, on the day, that's yesterday, I encourage our people to be out there. I encourage them not to lose their guard. We've done so much. Everything shows that we are winning, but you need to consolidate your gains. You need to protect what you have been able to raise, and that's exactly what we've been doing. Last night, even after we left the rally grounds, I was still out there campaigning. I was in Kusi and all that. And so This morning, I've done so much work before coming here, and we are on it. We are still doing it. I would leave, but for your interview, I will be out there. So right after the interview, I'm back there. We are not supposed to really do campaign, outdoor programs, but it doesn't also take away the fact that you can meet your friend and talk to him that he should vote for you. You can always do that, but you don't need to be out there visibly, be loud and all that, which we won't do. But we will still continue talking to the people. In fact, what is even intriguing is that at this moment, it is the voters that are rather coming. They've heard the message, they approve of the message, they are happy with it. And so when I woke up in the morning, my house was full of people trying to at least, pay their pay homage, try to, come around to say hi, try to find out how I'm doing.
Well, remaining your election command center, stay with us. Tomorrow, we have a social contract with you. We're showing you nothing but the best of coverage, as we have always done here on the Your Election Command Center across all media journal platforms. Make a date. We start the coverage from the Akwatia constituency from 5 a.m. We start the analysis in the studio. We're building up to when polls open at 7 a.m. Join me and the rest of the team tomorrow morning here on Your Election Command Center. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. My name is Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.